Let's do this, YouTube. What do you say? All right, so this channel works. What do you know? So I tried to start streaming on Gematria 85 because I have a lot more subscribers on that station. Couldn't get YouTube to work. Wouldn't cooperate with me, so I came over to my other channel with the educational videos. This one doesn't have so many subscribers, only about 300, so if you catch this live, congratulations. All right, guys, so here on this live stream, which I haven't done since I lost my first YouTube channel, and for anyone new to this who might be stumbling into my channel, not really knowing what they're looking at, here I teach the language of Gematria. Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the live chat if anyone has any questions or whatever. I'm going to drop this link in a couple places. Bear with me a moment, truth seekers. I'm going to drop this link in. So 1 year ago tonight, we had the death of Chris Cornell, followed by Chester Bennington just a couple of months later. All right, so let's do this bad boy. So last year I uploaded long videos on both Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. I went through my decodes, picked out some of the better things that I found. Also kind of revisited some of the numerology. I know a little bit more than I knew a year ago, or at least I like to think so. So I tried to simplify this, break it down a little bit. Also included more astrology into this. There's a very, very interesting connection between Chris Cornell and the Pope, Pope Francis, believe it or not. So we're going to talk about that. Again, Chris Cornell, born on the date of the moon landing, July 20th, 1964. And what you kind of figure out when you look back at this is that this whole ritual really was a complete solar eclipse and a moon landing ritual. It really tied the two events together. So the first moon landing occurred on July 20th, 1969. And I use the term moon landing very loosely because, you see, man did not land on the moon and walk around collecting rocks and dust and come back to the world. It just didn't happen like that. They certainly sent someone into low Earth orbit, but that's as far away from Earth as these guys ever went. And it's curious that, you know, Neil Armstrong, the first man to ever be interviewed, or the first man to ever step foot on the moon, you know, he hasn't really been interviewed since that happened. I encourage anyone who's doubtful about my claims to look up interviews with the crew that went to the moon after they came back, and you can tell something's going on. They're very shaky. They look very nervous, not at all excited and happy as you would be if you just conquered death and actually flew all the way to the moon and back, you know. Several of these missions they faked, in fact, and they're still, to this day, paying tribute to these missions. As we saw with the SpaceX launch, 49 years later, we got a big tribute from SpaceX. Got a video up on my channel about that. But on this video, we're going to discuss Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. And just to kick this off, I'm going to pull up the calculator here and look at English reduction. Again, in case you're new, these are the 4 base ciphers. English ordinal and reverse ordinal, where each letter is numbered 1 through 26 relative to its position. Both ciphers can then be reduced to a single digit using the rules of numerology. In English reduction, eclipse sums to 33, as we see right there. Eclipse, 33. And this has roots in Hebrew, so for those of you patient watching me in a live stream, I kind of applaud you because I really have no idea what I'm doing. Nobody realizes how many edits I go through and make when I'm doing a video to upload onto my channel. It's crazy how many mistakes I make and how many things I say wrong that I stop the footage and redo it. And sometimes you catch it, like I'll make a bad edit and still upload the video. Anyway, so we're going to go to Google Translate, and we're going to type in the word for eclipse and take a look at the Hebrew term. So what you see is this actually gives us like a total eclipse phrase or solar eclipse. I think this phrase here actually translates to solar eclipse more exactly. So you see there's two words here. So if we take this one word and drop it in, you see you still get eclipse, right? This is eclipse. The other second word was solar. So just this word alone, dropped in the Hebrew calculator, I want you to look at the Hebrew Gematria of eclipse, this word right there. Like I said, translates directly to eclipse. This sums to 156. And in English, using the alphabetic order, 33 equals 156. And like I said, eclipse equals 33. So these are the types of connections you see in Hebrew and English. A lot of people who are doubting the work at first say, well, there should be a lot of words that sum to the same thing in both languages. And often there are, actually. For instance, Israel is 64, both English ordinal and Hebrew ordinal. But more often than not, you're going to see something closer to this. Eclipse equals 33. 33 equals 156. And then the Hebrew word for eclipse, summing to 156. And, you know, the second man who died here, his name was Bennington. Last name, summing to 156, reverse order. And he actually had his own band aside from Dead by Sunrise, or aside from Linkin Park, called Dead by Sunrise. And isn't it strange that Chester was found dead like just after sunrise, right? Using English extended gematria, this sums to 1370. And in numerology, these zeros are dropped, we get a 137. So this matches total eclipse, 137 ordinal. And 137 is the 33rd prime number. And eclipse equals 33. So we're going to see how this is central to this whole ritual. One thing that's interesting about the gematria of total eclipse, look at these base ciphers, 137, 47, 187, and 70. And what defines a total eclipse? It's when the moon's shadow reaches the Earth. This is called the umbral shadow, which is the tiny band in which the sun travels. And when they first reported Chris Cornell died, they said that he was found with a band around his neck. And I think that's interesting in light of the fact that the path of totality is called a band as it goes over the Earth. So check this out. Total eclipse, summing to the same in all four base methods. And again, it's the umbral shadow that reaches the Earth. You have to stand in the umbral shadow to see the total eclipse. And in all four methods, this matches up. 137, 47, 187, and 70. There you see it. So once this video is done, I'll go ahead and link to my blog post on this so you can see how I babble on about the eclipse and how awesome it was. I personally drove down to southern Illinois in August to go see the total eclipse. And, you know, if you're wondering about whether or not you should do it, you should. I mean, there's no hesitant about it for me to go. I mean, I will quit my job to go watch the next one if I have to. That big of a deal. So when we're talking about rituals with the moon and the sun, the paths that the moon and sun travel in the sky both make a figure 8, right? You got the lunar phase, you got the solar year. So you have an 8 on one side, an 8 on the other. And this is really the source of the infinity symbol. The infinity symbol being a sideways 8. If you want more on this number, just watch Back to the Future. They time travel at 88 miles per hour. When we write out the number 88, we find some very interesting numbers in our base ciphers. First of all, I want to mention the 69 in full reduction. 69 was the year of the first moon landing, right? Also, 88 equals 123 using the alphabetic order. Outer space equals 123. Outer space, the great big Masonic conspiracy, also summing to 123. And this ritual is involving two rock and roll singers, and rock and roll equals 123. So, coincidence? You know, you just gotta wonder, right? I'm just popping in on the chat here. I see we got some notable guests. Zenith of the Alpha, welcome, my friend. I'm going to make you a moderator because you've done some darn good work. Add moderator. All right, there you go. Desi's he's in Serbia, so I think he's sleeping right now, so he can't follow through on his moderator duties. We got some guys talking about flat Earth. That's cool, I guess. You know, you guys, I don't know why you bring that to my work. I just wonder about people who follow me around and want to talk about flat Earth. Like, when have I ever really discussed flat Earth? I mean, I talked about it on my podcast, and that was just to address why I'm not on board with it. You know, if you guys want to talk flat Earth, there's plenty of places to go. I just think it's really strange that people are following me around talking about it. Like, it's just divisive, you know. Don't you guys see that? So Oda agrees. Yeah, I mean, let's do that. Let's just decode some numbers. You know, look, if you guys are bickering about flat Earth, if this becomes a thing, just go away. Seriously. And J.R. Smoove, I know you're the guy who's been commenting on my work, saying this all the time. All right, so let's go on with the numbers here. I'll check back in on the chat in a little bit. All right, so we got Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell. Put their stats here on my blog. And here's what the real kicker with this ritual is. You got Chester Bennington died July 20th, 2017. Chris Cornell born July 20th, 1964. Notice both have the same date. You know, Chester Bennington dying on Chris Cornell's birthday. Chris Cornell would have been 53 that day, by the way. And I just want to point out, solar eclipse equals 53. And, you know, solar eclipse equals 190, reverse order. The name Chris equals 190 in Jewish Gematria. Also, solar eclipse, 433 in Jewish Gematria. This is an important number. It's the 84th prime number. And you got Chester Bennington, whose name sums to 84. Wow, I can't believe I never caught this. I didn't even catch this for my post. Look at Chester Bennington in English ordinal. It's 192, like the word eclipse in Jewish Gematria. That's how bad I was at Gematria a year ago, is that I didn't catch that. I didn't even catch it now, actually. So, anyway, we're going to talk about the number 218, but before we do, we're going to focus on this 88, you know, the analemma, as they call this. Chris Cornell was the first of these two to die. He died in Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan has reverse gematria of 88 in reduction. And I hope you guys get a kick out of this, right? You know how I mentioned this is all a tribute to the moon landing and a solar eclipse. Isn't it interesting that moon landing equals 503 in Satanic Gematria? Remember, this ritual concluded with Chester Bennington dying on Chris Cornell's 53rd birthday. So, solar eclipse in English Gematria equals 503. So they share that number. Moon landing and solar eclipse share one number, it's 503. And if you type out their full names together, Christopher John Boyle and Chester Charles Bennington, look at that shit. You get 503 in the standard alphabetic order. Is this a coincidence? You can't convince me it is. And then you just take their common names, Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, and keep your eyes on still on the alphabetic order. Look at this, you get 347. So 347, this is the 69th prime number. The word eclipse, 69, same order. Looking back at the Hebrew language, I'm going to look at the word sacrifice. Check out sacrifice in Hebrew Gematria. It's 347. And, you know, they consider 13 an unlucky number, 13, 347 in Jewish Gematria. Again, this being the alphabetic order and not one of my other wonky, wacky ciphers, not a coincidence. What do you guys think? What's up with the chat here? Flatter for my you know, I put hide. I don't know if that'll hide him from everybody. This is the first time I tried moderating anybody else in the chat. Can you believe the dude said half of my gematria is based on ball earth? What the fuck is he talking about? Oh, my audio. Just a sec, guys. All right, so... All right, testing again on the microphone. That was really weird. I plugged it back in, and it seems to be working. So I'm really glad I checked. I'll keep an eye on that level now going forward. I'm glad I just happened to pop in the chat when that happened. Sorry, guys, not the first technical difficulty. All right, back to the decode. So we're talking about the moon landing, solar eclipses. You can see how they're related, right? It's the moon that eclipses the sun. But I don't need to tell you that. You know that. So here's the interesting thing about the moon landing, right? If you look at Stellarium and punch in the time that we landed on the moon, supposedly, it was said that it was 2018 universal time, being 8:18 in the afternoon. You know, somewhere earlier in the afternoon in the United States. And if you look at where the moon was when we landed, the moon was at an ecliptic coordinate of 188. And that makes it interesting that Chris Cornell equals 188 in the reverse alphabetic order. The moon landing, all the moon landings, the 5 or 6 of them, results of the Apollo missions, 188. And Chris Cornell also 188 in Francis Bacon, so he's actually got double gematria of that number. Now, when we're talking about numbers and the spelling of numbers, Jewish gematria, I think, is really significant. And I've done work on this before. I've talked about how, you know, 10 equals 3791, 10 equals 37 ordinal. And this continues, like 1 equals 64, 11 equals 64, 1 2 equals 92, just like 12. I mean, it's really bizarre. You know, 1 3 even, 41, the 13th prime, just like 13, and then it stops. You know, the word dead equals 14. So, anyways, so there's definitely something to the spelling of the numbers in this ancient Jewish gematria. Now, when you type out the word 88, you get this really interesting values in Jewish gematria. First of all, you get 118 ordinal. And think about how 11 times 8 equals 88, right? And then you get another mathematical relationship in reduction. 8 times 8 equals 64, and we'll talk about this one in a minute. But first, we'll focus on the 118, because when we landed on the moon, the sun was at the 117th ecliptic coordinate, but then they waited several hours to actually step out onto the moon, and at that point, the sun was at 118. And using the alphabetic order, moon landing equals 118. You know, 118 we often recognize as a number of death. Jewish Gematria 118. Homicide also equals 118. Chester Bennington, his birthday, 3 plus 20 plus 19 plus 76. This sums to 118. Excuse me. Chester Bennington, he died in Palos Verdes Estates, California. And it's going to be pretty small up there, but look at these ecliptic coordinates. He died on the 118th meridian. Right? 118 there. And of course, the 33rd parallel. Again, we'll talk more about 33. And if you measure between their birthdays, check this out. Chris Cornell, born on the date of the moon landing in 64. And then Chester Bennington was also born on the 20th of March, 1976. And look at that. That's 11 years and 8 months apart. Exactly. Another frickin' 118. So yeah, I mean, here I'm talking about how this is a ritual for the moon landing, which sums to 118 ordinal. And so much 118 between these guys. So I also mentioned how, 88 equals 64. Jewish reduction, 8 times 8 equals 64. Chris Cornell was born in the year 64. See that? On the date of the moon landing in 64. And then Chris Cornell, his name sums to 64 in reduction. And then he died 64 days before his birthday, with the end date included. And if you don't include the end date, 64 days before his birthday is May 17th. Well, that's the date they originally reported that he died. I don't know if you remember. Actually, in my video, the whole thing was based on him dying on the 17th, and then I released the video, and then a day later they changed it to the 18th. And really, I felt like it was the 18th all along, because his wife talked to him at 11:30, they reported, you know, the 113 time. So how was he dead within a half hour? But, you know, whatever, the guy didn't really die anyway. I don't think. Then again, who knows? So Chris Cornell equals 64, and where did he die? He died in the state of Michigan, which sums to 64 alphabetic order. Then his 53rd birthday, or what would have been his 53rd birthday, the date that Chester Bennington died, that was a date with 64 numerology. 7 plus 20 plus 20 plus 17. So a lot of 64s here as well. And it just makes sense. I mean, this is all about the number 88, right? 88, the path of the moon, the path of the sun, and just the simple gematria of 88. It applies in almost every cipher. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to mention this too. In Jewish ordinal, if you add up their name gematria, you get 518, and this was the date that the ritual began. You know, 503, we saw how this was relevant early on. It matches the gematria of solar eclipse and moon landing. Also, it's kind of interesting their names sum to 226 in reverse full reduction. And 226, if you don't follow my blog, you know, you probably know a little bit about this number and how it ties into the World Trade Center bombing and everything, but this is like a mega 33 number, right? Because 33 sums to 156 and 141 in the reverse order. So keep your eyes on English ordinal. 156 equals 226. 141 equals 226. It's the same thing. And then you had the World Trade Center bombings. Remember, construction started 33 years before. And that bombing was on 226, 93, 226 equals 93, etc., etc. So interesting stuff on those dates. So we're going to get into a mega load of 218. Just going to run back on the chat real quick before I continue to see if you guys got any random questions or shit. La-di-da. Thanks to Amy for joining in. Got some cool information about 42 in there. All right, so thanks again to everybody for just tuning in on this live on the whim podcast / live stream. You know, it just occurred to me it's been a year. Bobby had been talking about this Chris Cornell thing for the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, you know, we did all this work back then, but you know, we've kind of gained a lot of knowledge since then. So to be able to look back and realize what we missed was nice. And then I realized, just as I put the post up, I'm like, dude, it's been a year tonight since he died. So I don't want to say we're celebrating his death, right? Because it's kind of weird, but celebrating his career, or, I mean, most of you guys probably didn't even like Soundgarden. So whatever, let's just talk about some 218. Now this 518, right? This was the date that Chris Cornell died, 518. Think about the number 518, right? You write it out, and then you put like a mirror underneath it. You know, do one of those zenith tricks, reflect the number, and look at the number in a mirror, and it'll blow your mind. And it really does, because 518 upside down is 218. And seeing as we still have Hebrew Gematria open, let's look at the Gematria of moon. Moon in Hebrew, summing to 218. That's our number right there, right? You know what's funny is if you look up the moon landing, right? Apollo 11, the first moon landing. Check out the time that they say the lunar module landed on the moon. 2018 UTC. Like 218. Can you believe that shit? So not only are they telling us that, you know, they managed to build a technology without testing it in an environment similar to the moon, that they were able to get this thing to work 6 times in a row with no accidents, nobody getting killed. Not only were they able to do that, but they were able to land the damn thing to the minute with the matching gematria as moon. I mean, these guys are pretty good, right? We should be applauding them maybe, patting them on the back a couple extra times. 2018, get the fuck out of here, you're ridiculous. And yeah, so 2018, I also found this article just randomly searching for the moon or moon information. It said Apollo 11 navigation chart sells for $218,000. This happened back in 2009. Look at the date, 7/17. 7 times 17 is 119. Not going to get too sidetracked with that number, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely the big moon number. It's all over the place. In Gematria, Chris Cornell gets this tribute. Cornell equals 218 in Jewish Gematria, right? And tack on his first name, Christopher Cornell, you get another 218, alphabetic order. So already you're seeing the connections to the moon in this guy's name, multiple methods. Man, when you can get something like that in Jewish Gematria and then extend it and get it in English ordinal, I mean, that's what you're talking about, right? That's some heavy-hitting connections. Chris Cornell, then, he had that funeral service at Hollywood Forever. Hollywood Forever, 218. And it was like the biggest bullshit funeral I've ever seen. You had people, you know, nobody was crying. Everybody was wearing sunglasses, despite the fact that they were in a shaded area. Nobody wanted to be seen not crying is what it really came down to. So that's one of the main reasons I think this is all a hoax death. You know, once I saw that funeral go down, I just thought, man, all these people are acting. And when you measure from the MGM Grand in Detroit, Michigan, where Chris Cornell is said to have died, and measure back to Palos Verdes Estates, the road, if you actually go down to the street level, right where Chester Bennington lived, you find it's just a hair over exactly 2,000 miles on the money. And put an image of that. You can kind of see that, 2,000 miles. This was my expert Google Earth analysis. And again, everybody welcome to verify my work. Anytime. And, you know, so 2,000 miles apart they died. 2,000 miles equals 218 in Gematria. Still using the alphabetic order. Still coming up with 218s. Chester Bennington was born in Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix, Arizona does not sum to 218. At least I don't think. I'm going to confirm that. Yeah, no 218. But think about how Phoenix, Arizona is known as the Valley of the Sun. And the Valley of the Sun equals 218. And just think about the date of the eclipse. 21/8, the 21st of August, 21/8 as it's written in most of the world, or 2108. And right there you get that in Gematria as well. Bennington died in Palos Verdes Estates, California. And just popping up this Jewish ordinal cipher, Palos Verdes Estates, summing to 218. Some people I think still don't believe that this is a legit cipher. I will say it's not that important. However, it's one of those icing ciphers like septenary. It's just like, well, if it's not 218 in one of these, there you go to 218 right there. And speaking of which, 218 isn't the only relevant number that we're looking at. Well, for starters, 1496 in Jewish Gematria, when Chester Bennington died, he was exactly 496 months old. He died in Palos Verdes Estates, which sums to 1,496. I just noticed that now. That's really cool. But there's more, right? So 108, this is a number of geometry. The moon is 108 widths of the moon away, just like how the sun is 108 diameters of the sun away. And then 225 in ordinal. And this is a moon number. When you look at the moon, what is the moon's, let's see, closest distance from Earth to the moon? So that's the average, 238,000. The moon comes as close as 225,000 miles. Let's see if I can find that on the page. Here you go. The moon comes as close as 225,000 miles to the Earth, right? And Palos Verdes Estates, 225. There's a couple more connections about this number. It's pretty special. But yeah, definitely coded to the teeth for this. So let's type out 218. Since we're looking at so many 218s, right? So in Jewish Gematria, we get 1,570, which is interesting because both of these men were said to have been killed by suicide by hanging, which is 157. See how it's the same, suicide by hanging, same wording, same gematria as 218. It's wild stuff, isn't it? And this, Chester Bennington had this kind of scripted into his career. If you measure from his birthday to the release of Linkin Park's first album, Hybrid Theory, on October 24th, 2000, look how many days it was. It was 218 days after his birthday. And then the name of the album was Hybrid Theory. Look at this shit. Hybrid Theory, 157. Just like suicide by hanging, just like 218 in Jewish, 1570. Another thing I just realized, 157, this is the 37th prime number. And, I mean, I know my prime numbers pretty well, United States, 37. But look at the date numerology of Chester Bennington's death. It was a life lesson number of 37. So, lots of connections there. In fact, 37 is the Hebrew gematria of total solar eclipse in reduction. Just to verify this here, total solar eclipse, we got this phrase, this is verifiable, this is correct right there. In Hebrew reduction, you get a 37, total solar eclipse. One more thing I just thought of, Truth Seeker. I got this on my mind. Okay, so 37 we saw, total solar eclipse, right? The 37th, I'm sorry, 37 is the 12th prime, right? And in Sumerian, how do I get my Sumerian cipher? There we go. Total solar eclipse equals 1212. So, I mean, is it a coincidence? I don't think so. Anyway, So all these 218s, it's just it's completely off the chain. I talked about how Chris equals 190 like solar eclipse, but look at the English ordinal and English extended names or values. 57, 210. The word moon, 57, 210. So we saw how 218 in reduction sums to 97. Well, Cornell's real name was Christopher John Boyle, which is 97 reverse. Speaking of reverse, another number that has this 97 gematria is 266. And 266 brings us to this mega connection, which I'm going to touch on here. So if you go back 218 weeks to the day before Chris Cornell died, well, the date that he was first reported to have died, May 17th, 218 weeks to the day before that was the date that Pope Francis became Pope. And think about how he's the 266th Pope. I'm not going to actually pull up Stellarium and do this because on a live stream it's really difficult. You can't really see the numbers in the corner, but you're going to have to take my word for it or research it for yourself. You're welcome to. There's a very strong astrological connection between the Pope and Chris Cornell. It's not just the fact that Cornell died 218 weeks after he became the Pope. So the Pope, he's the 266th Pope. The number 266, we're starting to believe this is special in how it relates to astrology. The galactic center of the Milky Way is located at the 266th degree in the ecliptic. And this is moving towards like 267, but right now it's at 266. When the Pope was born, his sun was at the 266th ecliptic. Yeah, shortly after the sun reached 266, the Pope was born. Well, when Chris Cornell died, Saturn was at the 266th ecliptic. And just think about this, right? Chris Cornell sang a song called Black Hole Sun, and it's the black hole that's at the center of the Milky Way at the 266th ecliptic. And then you have Saturn, the black sun, was covering the black hole when he died at 266. And then he's got this connection to the 266th Pope. Furthermore, Francis, 119 reverse order, and Christopher John Boyle, also 119, with the S exception. There you go, 119. So that's a lot to digest, but it's like, to me, that really blew my mind when Bobby found that out. And thanks to Bobby Simpson and Casey Jones, Occult Astrology. If for some reason you don't know about Bobby Simpson's channel, YouTube channel, and his blog, definitely give that a look. It's awesome. He comes up with this shit all the time. And just think about, Cornell. He was the lead singer of Soundgarden, 122. We're talking about Pope. What was it? Pope Francis equals 122, right there. And then this also brings us to something with time, right? So 122 minutes is 2 hours, 2 minutes on a clock. And total solar eclipse equals 202. Chris Cornell was born on the 202nd day of the year. You see 720. It's normally the 201st day of the year, but 1964 was a leap year, so it was the 202nd day of the year. And there's even something significant when you measure between their birthdays. Pope Francis, born December 17th, 1936. Chris Cornell equals 136, by the way. I don't know. Anyway, if you measure between their birthdays, you get this. 10,077 days. And eclipse of the sun equals 177. Total eclipse in the Kabbalah equals 177. And this isn't an accident. If you actually go and measure between total solar eclipses, you find that, or just not total solar eclipses, but all solar eclipses. If you just measure between the dates of solar eclipses, you will very frequently find that they're 177 days apart. And this just has to do with the number of lunar phases that are between different eclipses. It's either going to be 1 synodic month or 4 or 5. And which brings us to the Catholic Church, right? I mean, here we're talking about the Pope, Catholic Church. What was it that's 145? I forget, but we'll get back to that at another time. Also, there's this 47 connection. You know, total eclipse equals 47 in Hebrew. Francis equals 47 reduction. Both Francis and Cornell born on dates with 47 numerology. So it's just weird. I never would have guessed it, right? Chris Cornell and the Pope, but that's what's going on, man. That's what's happening. So before I get into the 33s, I'm just going to jump back at the chat. And, oh, brother. I'm so glad you guys are just sharing information and not asking questions. Oh, here's a question. Are we breaking out of or into the Matrix? What? That's like a question that I'm going to have to take a nap on. I'm going to have to sleep on that. I'm going to have to eat a couple meals and then sleep again on that. That's an awesome question. Right, because it feels like the more you look at, the more coded everything is. And maybe it's just now that we're looking, we realize how coded it is. But it still feels like the synchronicity is picking up, you know. But I don't know. That's just an interesting way of phrasing it. All right, guys. So let's talk about some 33-227 action. This is pretty interesting here, right? So Chris Cornell dying on May 18th, 2017. That's the date that leaves 227 days in the year. And it's got 33 numerology, which I didn't even put in the post because I'm a noob still. So 33, we know this is the value of eclipse. What about total eclipse? And you know what? I don't think this is going to give me the right value. No, this ain't right. This total eclipse here, how is this? So it's giving me solar eclipse, even though I type in total eclipse. What if I put in full? Okay, I think when you put in full eclipse, then you get the proper one. In Hebrew, this is how they say it. Like, they don't have an exact term for total eclipse. It doesn't translate the same. But if you go in how it's written on Wikipedia, on the Hebrew Wikipedia, you'll find that a total eclipse is going to be phrased like this, like a full eclipse, as Google Translate sees it. And here you see you get the 227, full eclipse, 227. And we all know about 227, right? 22 divided by 7 gives us 314, like the first 3 digits of pi. This equation on the calculator gives us 3.14. Alt 227 on your keyboard on a PC will give you the symbol for pi. Super significant. So yeah, eclipse equals 33. Cornell dead on a date with 33 numerology. And look at this. Chris equals 33 reverse. Chester, 33 reduction. And here's the real kicker on this. Like, this is the big crash course. If you're doing a video on this, like a short version, you just cut this part out right here. Measuring from the death of Chris Cornell to the date of the 2017 Great American Eclipse, it was 3 months and 3 days. And if you measure from the date Chester died and include the end date, it was a span of 33 days. And again, both Chester and Chris summing to 33. I mean, what are the odds of this, right? Rockstar, 33 reduction. What's the use in asking what are the odds? I don't know, but Rockstar, 33. And then check this out. Rockstar, 414 in Jewish Gematria. I'm going to tell you why I think this is interesting. It's because Chester Bennington lived for 41 years and 4 months to the day. 414. Rockstar, 414. When you crack open the Sumerian ciphers, the word time, or is it Saturn? Saturn equals 414 in reverse English Sumerian. So that sticks out. Think about 414 on a clock, or like 414 on a clock. 4 hours and 14 minutes is 254 minutes. And 254, this is the gematria of time. Time in English extended, 254. This comes from the Metonic cycle, 235 synodic months plus 19 years, 254. So a number that's connected to 414. And then the other one I forgot about was the word eclipse, because eclipse equals 414. That's pretty cool. A lot of 414 action going on. And then again, if you take the years out of the measurements, he died at exactly 496 months. And let's check out 494. See what's special about 494 or 496. .496 is the third perfect number. And there's only, two numbers before this that are perfect. You got the number 6. You got the number 28. These are numbers whose proper divisors sum to the number itself. And 496 is your third perfect number. So think about this, right? There's something about perfect numbers and ritual sacrifice. And I want you to see this because I think this connection is really strong. So we know that the word sacrifice equals 73, alphabetic order. Ritual sacrifice equals 73 in reduction. Well, both the words perfect and number equals 73. And then if you write out perfect number, it equals 616, which is the same as ritual sacrifice. Think, what the hell is going on with this, right? So since I've been decoding Murdered by Numbers, I see this 496 pop up semi-frequently, and it just sticks out. Also, as far as the 154 in ritual sacrifice, Chester Bennington's birthday, his final birthday fell exactly 154 days before the eclipse. And then the date that Chester died was 154 days after they released their last single. That last single was called Heavy, which has double gematria of 1114. And 11 times 14 equals 154. So, I mean, there's only I want to say 4 or 5 words in the dictionary that sum to 1114 in both ciphers. Tell you what, let's take a look. No, let's not do that. I don't want to exhaust my computer opening that dictionary file. So we talked about the number 156 a little bit earlier, right? The word eclipse, just as a little refresher, just this one word for eclipse in Hebrew, summing to 156. Bennington equaling 156. Now, he had this band that I mentioned earlier, Dead by Sunrise. And this band was affiliated with this place in Tempe, Arizona called Club Tattoo. And Club Tattoo equals 1056. And they were located, like I said, in Tempe, Arizona. And this is one of the few nations or cities in the nation that sums to 1331 in the English cipher. And this is the number that represents a total solar eclipse. You merge the 33s and these two numbers, you spell them out. I'll do another video on this before long. I should really get that out of the way because it's important. Also interesting that Tempe, Arizona has this 143 gematria. The word circle in Hebrew equals 143. Think about this as a permutation of the digits of pi, 314. Time is represented by the circle, by the way. Isn't it wild that this frickin' phrase sums to 314 and 143? I mean, we already know that time equals 47, just like beast 47, and I think time is the beast, and the circle represents the beast, right? The circle, the mark of the beast, time, they're all interrelated. And I think that just further cements it, right? Time, I mean, could this be coincidence? Who made this language? What's going on? All right, so I wanted to mention, too, his name, Dead by Sunrise, the band's name, 1370, like total eclipse, like umbral shadows, both sum to 137 ordinal. But check out the Jewish Gematria. Well, before we do, 146 ordinal, solar eclipse equals 146 in the Kabbalah, 146 solar eclipse. Dead by Sunrise, 146, but also 930 in Jewish. And think about how the sun, we're told it's 93 million miles away. The name Chester Bennington, with the S exception, equals 93. Dead by Sunrise released one album only, ever. And then they called it quits. I guess they still did shows here and there, but they never really recorded anything. If you just check out their discography, October 13th, 2009. If you look at the number of months between then and the date that Chester died, it was 93 months before. And again, Chester Bennington summing to 93. And, we're talking about all these people dying by hanging, right? Someone else who died by hanging earlier that year was Aaron Hernandez. So just think about how 2017 sums to 269 ordinal. Year of the hanging sums to 269 reverse. And we had Aaron Hernandez, we had Chris Cornell, we had Chester Bennington, all dying by hanging in the same year. Well, Aaron Hernandez, just to confirm this, because I'm actually not 100% sure. Aaron Hernandez died, yes, April 19th, 2017. And including the end date, this is 93 days before Chester Bennington. So 3 hangings, 93 days apart. It's just like they just pound the same number over and over again into these frickin' rituals. It's ridiculous. We're almost wrapping this up, Truth Seekers. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with it. Once I'm done, I'm going to look back at the chat, see what you guys have shared. And then I'm going to eat because I'm getting hungry. And so is my cat. My cat's like, she's ripping apart the scratching post behind me. Chester's full name, right before we get to the grand finale. Chester Charles Bennington, summing to 390 in the reverse alphabetic order. And this 39, this is super significant. And he's also got this double 114. His name is 114, also Bennington 114. 33 with all exceptions equals 114, right? Anywho, 390 reverse alphabetic order, and in the reverse reduction method, eclipse equals 39. And then sacrifice in our septenary cipher, 39. This, of course, being our Marty Leeds cipher. Hi, Marty. Hope you're doing okay in Hawaii, man. Tough luck on the move, bro. Ouch. Whew. So right before, no, actually the day after Chris Cornell died, Linkin Park released their last album, right? Just another coincidence to pile on top. This album was called One More Light, which equals 69 and 57. These are both numbers related to the moon, which equals 57. Remember the moon landing in 69. Eclipse equals 69. No coincidences here. But at last, really one of the greatest finds about this here, I thought. We know about the word killing, equaling 444 in Sumerian. The word Masonic equals 444. And Lord knows there's a whole lot more 44s. Occult equals 444. The word suicided equals 444, and it seems like, if these guys really did die, they were definitely suicided. But either way, that's the story that a lot of people are thinking. And if you measure from the MGM Grand, where Chris Cornell died, to the point of greatest eclipse, right near Hopkinsville, Kentucky, I believe it was in, it was exactly 444 miles. And that's pretty significant, 444 miles. And I thought that was pretty cool when I found it, but then Chester Bennington died, and he died 1,444 nautical miles from the point of longest duration in Carbondale, Illinois. And 1,444, not only does it have the 444 sequence in it, but in trigonal gematria, when you write out 33, it sums to 1444. And 1444 is 38 squared. 38 being one of the gematria of the moon in Hebrew, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. I'm pretty sure moon equals 38. Hebrew ordinal, there it is, 38. Woohoo! So yeah, 38 squared equals 1444, and he's got that measurement to the eclipse. And this is all on top of the fact that they died exactly 2,000 miles apart, and 2,000 miles equals 218. And one thing I'd never even really mentioned in this decode was the MGM Grand, where Chris Cornell died. I'm going to do a little search for this. MGM Grand Detroit, here it is. What a nice address, 1777 3rd Street. MGM Grand Detroit sums to 547 in Jewish gematria. This is the 101st prime number. In reverse extended, the word time equals 547. And this is something I see attributed a lot. I just haven't done any real work on 547. Lambda 115, I know he's picked up on this. This is a very significant number as well. MGM sums to 33 on its own. Turn that reduction back on. 33 MGM. Also 67, this is the 19th prime number. Blood sacrifice equals 67. So does human sacrifice, 67. And total solar eclipse equals 67. And think about how Jesus, the ultimate human sacrifice, occurred, that crucifixion occurring under a solar eclipse. MGM Grand, there's some interesting numbers. The 13th prime, you got Freemasonry numbers, 139 here. And then, 199. 199, the 46th prime number. Sacrifice equals 46. So just a little live decoding, I guess. Just a random thought about the word sacrifice, summing to 226, English extended. If you measure from the date of Linkin Park's first release, Hybrid Theory, to the date that Chester Bennington died, it was 200 months and 26 days, like a 226. So that's pretty interesting. Here's another random fact. The total solar eclipse of 2017 occurred on the 233rd day of the year. Again, Great American Eclipse, day 233. And think about how this date is 21/8. Remember, moon equals 218. Well, think about how I keep saying 1331 is the... this is the number that represents a solar eclipse. 1331 eclipse equals 1331 because this is the number that represents a solar eclipse. Well, 1331 sums to 233 in the alphabetic order, 233, and this eclipse was on the 233rd day of the year. The 13th Fibonacci number, 233. Anyways, let's measure to the release of the song Black Hole Sun. Black Hole Sun came out May 13th, 1994. Let's see. 3 months. Okay, guys, we got a date change. We got a date change alert. Google changed the date. Wikipedia changed the date. I'm going to display my full screen here, and we're going to look at the Chris Cornell presentation I put together last year in May. I could end up looking really foolish here, but I fucking knew it. Look at this. They changed the date. They changed the date, guys. What's up with this shit? What is up with this shit? Black Hole Sun, the old release date, for Black Hole Sun was May 4th, 1994. When did they change this? We gotta, okay, this is ridiculous. Let's look at the history of this shit. You gotta be kidding me. Who edited at 2108? We're just talking about 218. Oh my goodness. We're gonna find this out. There it is, May 4th, 1994. So as recently as December, we were told that this song came out on May. Oh, look at this. They changed it to May 14th. Oh, we got information coming in. We got Reuters is telling us that 18 years or 28 years ago, 24 years ago, the date changed. I mean, can you believe that? And then they changed it back to the 4th. So they're just messing with the dates. Who are these people? So I don't know at what point they finally brought it back. I'm gonna find the one. April 17th, it was still May 4th. May 13th, 2018. They just changed this a few days ago. 4 days ago, Truth Seekers. 4 days ago, they changed the release date of Black Hole Sun. Can you believe that? Why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense. All right. So that's weird. So now, okay, well, now the song came out on a different date. Well, oh my goodness. Back to my original point. The song really did come out on May 4th, 1994. This is verifiable elsewhere. Now, the word sun equals 54 in the alphabetic order. Black hole sun. How appropriate. However, if you measure from that date to the date of the eclipse, you get 23 years. Let's see. What was it? Oh, yeah. 23 years, 3 months, and 17 days. So from the release of the song to the date of the eclipse, 23 years, 3 months, 17 days. And think about how the eclipse occurred on the 233rd day of 2017. So this song was released by the numbers, you know, even 23 plus years before the eclipse. They were still paying it tribute. Look at how this song came out on a date numerology of 122. Remember, Soundgarden equals 122. It's just wild, man. I just love that they changed that date on us. There's a lot of chat. I don't want to waste time looking through for questions. I don't think anybody's asking me questions. I think you guys are just sharing information and talking amongst yourselves, which is awesome. I guess while I'm still here, though, I'm going to mention a couple of songs that Linkin Park released. Totally by the numbers. Let's bring up my full screen once again here. So remember we said how 38 was this moon number in Hebrew? Linkin Park released this album, The Hunting Party, 38 months before the eclipse. And then you also have 83 months. They released 1,000 Suns. Look at that. They even released an album with the word suns in it. 1,000 Suns came out 83 months before the eclipse. And this brings us to Hebrew. So let's look at Hebrew again. And full eclipse, which is their term for total eclipse, sums to 83 ordinal. Solar eclipse, also summing to 83 ordinal. And they fucking released 1,000 Suns 83 months before the eclipse. So funny. And then they released an album called Minutes to Midnight, which came out 10 years, 3 months, and 7 days before the total eclipse. And total eclipse equals 137. That's all good and well. But look at these songs that they released. Faint. You ever seen a video for Faint? If not, you're about to. Linkin Park, Faint. Ad. All right. So here's the video for Faint. And the whole video takes place like this, right? There's these floodlights that start to fill in. I'm going to let you listen to the music, too, because I actually used to totally like this song. Yeah! So anyways, doesn't this kind of remind you of an eclipse, right? You got the floodlights in the background, and then you have the silhouette of all these band members in front of it, like the moon in front of the sun. You only see the silhouette of the moon. So you have this like eclipse-themed music video released here. And this was all completely by the numbers of a total eclipse. And let's look at just how. First of all, this song was released on June 9th. June 9th, the word eclipse equals 6-9, like the date 6/9. Also, yeah, look at this. Faint equals 156 in Jewish. Man, I wish I knew more Hebrew back when I made that video. Look at this. Faint equals 156. The word eclipse in Hebrew equals 156 in regular Hebrew Gematria. Look at that. That's awesome. This song, by the way, came out on a date with 38 numerology, 6 plus 9 plus 20 plus 03. The 38th prime number is 163. This song is 163 seconds long. There's more to this, too. Oh, boy. I used to do way too much work in these videos, people. Let's talk about Shadow of the Day instead, because this is much more easy to equate to an eclipse. Think about it. Shadow of the Day. You know, can you relate that to an eclipse? I would say you can. And here you got your eclipse-themed album cover as well, or the single cover. And what's funny about this song is that it came out 511 weeks before the eclipse. My cat is really hungry, so I'm going to wrap this up here. But Saturn equals 511. This song, 511 weeks before the eclipse. There's something else interesting about this song that I know I have on here. Let's see. Shadow of the Day, summing to 154 like ritual sacrifice. I think there was something in Hebrew with this song title, Shadow of the Day. This one might be for another time, truth seekers. Their last album, One More Light, released one day after Chris Cornell died. You know, interesting, this album, by the way, released on a date with numerology of 41 and 52. Bennington died at age 41. Cornell died at age 52. Death equals 52. And then look at this album cover. Here you got Chester, right? This is the bald one, and then you got Chris Cornell, like two little kids, and they're in front of a sun. What do you know? Interesting stuff. My Freemasonic kitty, that's the funniest comment I've seen. Well, there is Freemasonry in the family, but not the cat. For those of you who don't know, I did a private post on this because I didn't want to reveal too much about my brother's name and his birthday and stuff, but my oldest brother joined Freemasonry like at some point in last year. I don't know when last year, but he got promoted to Master Mason in January, and he's responsible for, you know, helping the lodge to pay their bills and organizing and coordinating other people to come to the Masonry Lodge. This is what he tells me, of course. I would be surprised if they let him in on some pretty crazy information because they'd probably know that he's my brother, and, you know. So it's an interesting story. Definitely a lot of organic numerology in that one, too. All right, everybody. What are the stats, by the way, on this? I'm kind of curious. 17 watching. That's not bad. It's not bad for an impromptu live stream on a channel with 300 subs. So, yeah, thanks, guys, for tuning in. This was kind of fun. I'm going to have to do this a little more often, assuming YouTube doesn't delete my work. And that's kind of what I'm worried about, is that I'm going to stash some cool live streams, and the next thing you know, I get wiped out because I don't have these live streams on my computer. I would have to record them as video files on the side, which I can do. Now that I think of it, I can just do that. But I also want to take this to Twitch. The thing is, the audience just isn't there on Twitch like it is on YouTube. But I feel like Twitch could really pick up some steam here, because if you get a big bunch of people to come in and follow the work right off the bat and get a lot of viewers, there's a few sections in Twitch that get a lot of viewers, you know, those in real life sections. And these are people who are just bored looking for videos to watch. So I'm going to be doing some Twitch streaming soon too. And yeah, we'll get to that before long. All right, let me get myself back on the screen here. Thanks, everybody, for watching. God bless. Keep seeking and speaking that truth. Hope everybody has a good night. See ya!